The Earth is full of supervolcanoes, some of which haven't erupted in thousands of years. And though they don't erupt often, when they do, they can spell disaster for humanity. But what exactly makes a volcano a supervolcano? And why should we be worried about them? Let's dive into it. First off, let's talk about what makes a volcano a supervolcano. And the answer may surprise you because it has nothing to do with their size. You might assume that the biggest volcanoes are the most dangerous, but it's not quite as simple as that. Instead, volcanologists define supervolcanoes by the amount of volcanic ash and debris they eject during an eruption. Specifically, supervolcano eruptions are ranked 8 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index, or VEI, which is the highest possible ranking. To put this in perspective, Mount St. Helens, one of the most dangerous volcanoes in the contiguous United States, had a VEI ranking of 5. The largest historical eruption, Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines, had a VEI ranking of 6. And while both of these were serious events that caused significant loss of life and property damage, they are small potatoes compared to an actual supervolcanic eruption, which are so large that they can literally change the world. So how big is a supervolcano? Well, it depends on your definition of big. The term supervolcano was first coined in 1980 by U.S. geophysicist and volcanologist Howard Williams. At the time, Williams defined supervolcanoes as calderas that had a history of producing eruptions with volumes of pyroclastic material exceeding 1,000 cubic kilometers or 240 cubic miles. However, since then, scientists have debated the exact figure, with some arguing that the threshold should be much higher. Currently, there is no official agreed-upon number, but most scientists seem to agree that supervolcanoes should be capable of producing eruptions of at least 1,000 cubic kilometers or more of pyroclastic material. To put that in perspective, the largest historical eruption, Mount Pinatubo, ejected around 5 cubic kilometers of debris. So even the smallest supervolcanic eruption would be over 200 times larger. But size isn't everything. In fact, the most dangerous supervolcanoes are those that are capable of ejecting a substance called pumice. Pumice is a lightweight igneous rock that forms when gas-rich magma erupts and rapidly expands. It is so light that pumice is often referred to as volcanic foam, and its low density means that it can travel much farther than other volcanic debris, sometimes traveling around the globe. In fact, pumice from a single eruption can be found in many different locations on every continent on Earth. For example, pumice from the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia, which ranks as one of the 3 largest eruptions in recorded human history, has been found as far away as Western Australia and the Caribbean. Because of this, scientists believe that the global distribution of pumice is actually one of the best ways to track the history of supervolcano eruptions, even if written records don't exist. And it also means that supervolcanic eruptions can have a major impact on the entire planet, not just the immediate area surrounding the volcano. One of the most famous supervolcanoes in the world is Yellowstone, which is located in the northwest corner of the United States. Yellowstone is actually a supervolcano caldera, which means that it is the remnant of a massive explosion. This caldera is over 43 by 28 miles across and 1.7 miles deep, and it is home to several smaller volcanic centers. In fact, the park that surrounds Yellowstone caldera is actually one of the most volcanically active places in the world. Since the park was first established in 1872, there have been more than 20,000 earthquakes, 10,000 of which have occurred within the last decade alone. Now, while some of these earthquakes may have been related to tectonic plate movement, others were likely caused by magma moving beneath the surface. In fact, there is so much volcanic activity beneath the surface that scientists closely monitor the region to make sure it doesn't erupt. And they don't just monitor it with the naked eye either. They use all kinds of technology to keep tabs on Yellowstone, including seismometers to detect earthquakes, GPS stations to measure ground deformation, and even satellites to track changes in temperature and heat flow. These monitoring efforts have revealed that magma is constantly moving beneath the surface of Yellowstone. In fact, scientists estimate that there are around 15 million new magma chambers beneath the surface each year. While this is obviously concerning, it is also fascinating to see such a powerful force of nature up close. Yellowstone has had 3 major eruptions in the past. The first 2 occurred between 2 million and 1 million years ago, and the most recent occurred about 640,000 years ago. Each of these eruptions produced enormous amounts of ash and debris, with the most recent one ejecting an estimated 2,500 cubic kilometers of material. That's about 10 times the volume of the largest historical eruption at Mount Pinatubo. What's more, each of these eruptions had a VEI ranking of 8, making them true super eruptions. But despite the enormous size of these eruptions, they did not produce nearly as much pumice as some other supervolcanoes. In fact, pumice is so rare at Yellowstone that scientists are still trying to figure out exactly how much was produced during the most recent eruption. But while Yellowstone is certainly a major player when it comes to supervolcanoes, it is by no means the only one. In fact, there are dozens of supervolcanoes scattered across the globe. One of the most active supervolcanoes in the world is Mount Vesuvius in Italy, which is responsible for the destruction of the Roman city of Pompeii in 79 AD. Mount Vesuvius has had several supereruptions throughout history, but its most recent one occurred in 1631. This eruption was so devastating that it wiped out entire villages and sent ash and debris raining down over the surrounding countryside. And though it was not quite as powerful as the eruption that destroyed Pompeii, it was still one of the most destructive eruptions in recorded human history. Another supervolcano that has captured the public's attention in recent years is Mount Toba in Indonesia. Mount Toba is the site of the largest known eruption in the past 25 million years. This eruption was so massive that it is believed to have caused a volcanic winter. A volcanic winter occurs when a supervolcanic eruption injects so much ash and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere that it blocks sunlight and causes global temperatures to plummet. Scientists believe that the eruption at Mount Toba was so powerful that it may have caused the extinction of several human ancestor species. In fact, some researchers believe that the eruption may have been the reason that only Homo sapiens survived. So what should we be worried about supervolcanoes? Well, the truth is that we should be prepared for them. While supervolcanic eruptions are rare, they are inevitable. And when they occur, they can have devastating consequences. The good news is that scientists are working hard to monitor and study supervolcanoes so that we can better understand and prepare for them. By understanding the risks and taking steps to mitigate them, we can help ensure that the next super eruption does not wipe out humanity. So what do you think? Are you worried about supervolcanoes? Let us know in the comments below, and thank you for watching.